The original Godzilla is a sci-fi classic, and it's spawned more than 30 follow-up movies over the past 70 years. Not to mention all the other kaiju films that wouldn't exist without it. We've reviewed the modern films, but today we start our long journey through the King of the Monsters' storied past. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is David.
I come in peace.
This is a science fiction movie podcast. We get together and we talk about a sci-fi movie. It's that simple. And today marks the beginning of a journey that has been lingering on the to-do list for many, many years now. And that is the journey through Godzilla. Now, we've done the American, modern Godzillas, your Godzilla's ex-Kongs and New Empires and all that kind of thing. But there's, maybe we've even done a couple of modern Japanese Godzilla movies. We've done Shin Godzilla, Godzilla Minus One. But there's about 28 Godzilla movies before then that require some attention. So today we begin that journey with the original 1954 Godzilla.
And just to go with the audience here, before my time, there was actually already a review of Godzilla on this very show, along with, as a double feature, King Kong. You did that with Tara. And at the beginning of that review, because I went back to listen just to see what kind of stuff you guys talk about, you literally said, we're going to be getting to all of them eventually. So happy I'm here to start that journey.
This still counts as eventually. No lies were said.
Nah, just 200 plus episodes later.
Look, it was put off for a variety of reasons, but I wanted to finally get to it. And it just felt weird not doing a full dedicated episode to the original, especially since you were going to be on the other 27. It kind of felt like you should probably have a voice in the original movie as well. Yeah. So, hey, we're here. We're going to talk about it. Yeah.
I'm okay with that logic being used for Godzilla. Do not use that logic to make me redo all the Transformer movies when the new one comes out. I don't want that to happen again.
See, I don't want to rewatch any of those, so I think you're relatively safe on that front.
All right.
Good. That said, you still have to do them all for homework, of course, before a new Transformers movie's getting reviewed, but
no doubt.
That's a different...
I don't want to talk for an hour and a half. I'll talk for 10 minutes max, but not an hour.
Don't we talk about the giant robot balls? No, that's not something you've got a lot to say about.
No.
All right, well, fair enough. Original Godzilla is a classic, of course. It's one of the most important films of its kind. The beginning of the kaiju genre, all that type of stuff. It's one that I have talked about before. It's one that I've returned to. It might be my most watched foreign film, foreign language film. I'd have to think about it, but it's definitely in the running for the most watched for me in terms of that. So naturally, it's very good. I think it is very good, and it's about a giant monster who comes out of the ocean and stomples all over Tokyo. Stomples is not a word. I think I wanted to say stomp. I switched to trample in my head, and it came out with stomple.
It still works, though. It still is an accurate description.
It does work. I think you get the vibe of what I'm putting down. So we all start spoiler-free. Not that there's a ton to spoil, I think, in the original Godzilla, probably, but still, we'll start spoiler-free. We'll give you warning before we get into the spoilers, and if you're enjoying the show, please do hit the like button on YouTube, give us 5 stars on the podcast apps and all that jazz. And, of course, you can support us over at Patreon or YouTube membership and get access to bonus stuff, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So, the game plan... to get through the Godzilla movies, and it's going to take a long time, of course, because there's a lot of them. But the game plan is every other month we'll do another one. So we'll be back in a couple of months for Godzilla Raids again as the next one on the list. So.
And 6 years from now we'll finally be somewhere close to done.
Yeah, we don't want to feel like we're just putting out nothing but Godzilla movies. It would probably feel quite repetitive. I want them spread out enough, but at the same time consistent, so that we are chipping away at them as time goes on, so better time than the present. So, yes, we'll get into things. Now, David, normally you say no to this, but, is there a chance you've seen this before?
So, yes, with an asterisk. For anyone who doesn't know, there is the original Japanese Godzilla, and then it was brought over to America under the name, I think, Godzilla King of the Monsters.
That's correct,
if I remember correctly. And it was, I think, dubbed and was added in with extra sequences and stuff that made it more Americanized and somehow took us out of the equation of dropping bombs on the country, but whatever. I have not seen that one, I think. So my thing is, I watched this today, and a lot of it seems familiar. A lot of it seems like, okay, I remember all this happening. But certain sequences, I don't remember at all. So I might have watched the King of the Monsters version many years back and just forgotten all the American bits in the middle of it. But I don't know. I can't be sure which one I saw prior to this.
Yeah, I've never seen the American recut of it with like the American. I think as a journalist has like got scenes where he's like in Tokyo documenting it, so they sort of like almost turn him into the main character. Again, I've not seen it, so I'm kind of just spitballing there. But yeah, and I think they even brought him back for Return of Godzilla in 1984. They did like the same thing where they added in extra scenes and they brought the character back that they used in like the 50s one. If I'm misunderstanding any of that, because I've not seen these American versions of either of them, then forgive me. But yeah, I mean, I had no interest in checking that out. I mean, maybe one day for curiosity's sake, just to see how they did it, just to see how they kind of changed things, might be interesting. But whenever I want to watch Godzilla, I want to watch the original Japanese Godzilla, because it's the real movie. It's what was made, it's what was intended, and there's no need to kind of try and like westernize it up for whatever reason. It's especially since it's a film from Japan, made by Japanese people, that is very much them expressing a lot of the feelings that a country might have after nuclear bombs have been dropped on them, which is the big thing. Obviously, when we get to sequels and we've got Godzilla fighting other giant monsters, things are going to get silly, things are going to be lighthearted, they're going to be fun. But this movie is very much about processing feelings, about processing what a country's going through, and talking about it in a way where they do kind of bring up these like serious topics, but it's very much, no, we can kind of talk about and get the feeling of it from this giant monster, so we're not necessarily shoving the discussion of nuclear bombs down the audience's throat the entire time.
Yeah, it's the same sort of stuff. Obviously, you watch a lot of horror movies where, whatever monsters or whatever stuff they're dealing with there typically is just the stand-in for trauma or an abusive relationship or something like that. It's the monster here is nuclear war. It's the bombs and such like that. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, not really much to say about the premise beyond what I've already said. So I'll just ask the simple question. David, what do you think of Godzilla?
I mean, would you kill me if I said it's mid at best?
I'd probably chastise you a little bit, make fun of you.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's a great movie. I really do like it the whole way through. It's, again, I went into this thinking that it was something I had already seen, so I wasn't expecting too many surprises or anything like that, but like I said, there are sequences that I either completely forgot about or I've never seen before. So going through it, I think what really got me around this time, and I'm going to say this when we get to the ratings at the end, the general sound design. I don't know, last time I watched it, if I was like headphones or a crappy speaker or anything like that. I had the full soundbar experience on this one. Damn, they did a great job with the sound design in this one. From the musical cues to Godzilla's roar, it's all iconic. Love it. Acting wise, it feels great. And one of the things I really did appreciate is that it isn't as simple as Godzilla attacks and everyone is on the same page. Everyone is immediately like, we know what to do. Maybe they don't even know what to do, but they all want to do the same thing. There are different aspects to this. There are people who put different things above taking out Godzilla. There are people who may not even want to take out Godzilla. And it's interesting to see those dynamics play against each other and how they eventually all coalesce in the end. So, no, it's obviously a great look at post-war Japan and how they're dealing with their stuff there. Tara made the comparison of when I think it was Godzilla versus Kong was coming out. You guys were covering that one. that this is kind of the equivalent to what happened in cinema post 9/11 for America, where all of a sudden these big disastrous sort of films changed and the way we started looking at them became very different. I feel like this is the same sort of thing here, where I don't know what they had prior to this point, but this feels like that same sort of vibe of kind of a country coming to terms and wrestling with these feelings of this happened to us. How do we keep going now?
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen any Japanese cinema prior to World War II, because like, I mean, I've seen earlier movies in this, like from Kurosawa, we've done them, but they're all after 1945. So,
right,
I think the earliest one we did was like 1949, I want to say. So anyway, it's, I mean, this is 1954, obviously. The movie's great. The movie's fantastic. It's iconic. I mean, Godzilla is, I don't need to explain how much of a pop culture kind of phenomena Godzilla is and how he's lasted all this time. And I think one of the things that sticks out to me is watching this is that, the face is goofy. The original Godzilla face is a goofy looking thing when you get a close up. But Jesus Christ, when you get a wide shot and you see the full body figure, it still works. It still looks great. There's a reason why this design was good, even with some goofy elements in the face, because like when you get that profile shot of him like walking in this fire spread across the city in the background, it's haunting. And I think one of the things about this being black and white, and there's only a couple at the start that are in black and white, they switch to color, once we get to King Kong versus Godzilla, is that it does not necessarily help hide anything, because I think some people sometimes say that, they go, oh, it hides stuff and it hides. I'm like, it doesn't really. It's really obvious when there's miniatures. There's like a fire truck that flips over at one point. It's clearly like a toy truck, and it's it's fine. You can see all this stuff. But what the black and white does is those shots of Godzilla stomping around and like the destruction behind him and all this stuff, like he looks haunting. Like I don't think I would describe a single Godzilla movie other than this one as a horror movie, but I think you can call this one a horror movie with the way he is presented, the sheer force and almost ethereal quality to like him coming in and the way he fills the frame up and the horror that he causes, the devastation that he causes, like all that stuff is so effective, and it still is.
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of shots in this that I would say have an almost Muppet quality to the way he looks. Like but for every one of those shots, there's another one of Godzilla marching through the flames or through steam or something like that, and it's just against the night sky, and it feels like a genuine elemental force here that just cannot be stopped.
Yeah, that stuff is phenomenal. So, the movie looks great. You mentioned the sound. It sounds great. The scores also stood up really well. I mean, when we did Godzilla Minus One, they did a new version of all those main themes because those main themes are still excellent and they still work. So, I mean, there's honestly, there's very little to really critique. The human characters mostly serve for debates about how to handle Godzilla, how to handle different ways of handling Godzilla without getting into spoiler details. There is kind of a love triangle to an extent, but it's not really dwelled upon. It's not something where we're doing a lot of melodrama and like having that be the focus of the characters. And some of the sequels are absolutely going to delve into that, where we spend half an hour with like, oh, I love this character, but this other character wants me, and like there's going to be that. In fact, I think even the very next one might be guilty of that. But like this has interesting characters who have their viewpoints. We've got characters who think something needs to be done and Godzilla's obviously evil. We have someone who thinks we have to learn from Godzilla because clearly there's reasons for this happening. There's discussions of why Godzilla's here. There's discussions of like our part in this. There's discussions of how we handle this. And there's discussions and references to, there's at least one direct line of someone saying they just, they barely got out of Nagasaki when that happened. And it's like, there's just a little link for you just to keep that in your mind, just in case you weren't thinking about that as you're watching through the film.
Oh, yeah. No, there's one section where like news of Godzilla starts spreading out and they're talking about evacuations and they're just characters talking on a train. And someone says like, yeah, it looks like we might have to evacuate. And another character goes, I'm tired of evacuations. And I'm like, that packs so much of a punch just in that one line, just that thing of like, this is something that we've already been dealing with for so long and it just keeps happening.
Yeah, and it's that interesting thing where, like, if they said that line in the seventh Godzilla movie, it would just feel like a reference to the six previous Godzilla movies. But because this is the first one, it's like a reference to real world events. So it's a reference to just the status quo in Japan, and that actually also comes with something else. Is that, you know, this movie obviously has a build to who Godzilla is. There's the mystery to him, and only really this movie gets to have that. And I know obviously there's reboots, there's movies that kind of reintroduce him later. Obviously the American ones, both like the 98 one even, shudder the thought. But even the 2014 one, where they all obviously build up to Godzilla. They tease him, you get a footprint, you get like a little glimpse here, you get like a little hint there. But even in those cases where they're kind of getting to do it again, it's not actually a mystery for the audience. This is the only movie in Godzilla's history, because it's the first one, where it's actually a mystery to the audience. Oh, what are we building up to here? What is the ultimate payoff of what is this monster going to look like? How's it going to act? And all that kind of stuff. And that is something that no other movie gets to do after this. And so it's kind of special in that respect as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the same sort of thing that, you know, between all like the superhero movies modern days, that's kind of the same problem that we run into whenever they do a reboot. Is like, okay, anytime we show Spider-Man, how many times can we show Uncle Ben before it's like audiences are sick of it? Same sort of thing for Superman. How many times can we show Krypton's going before audiences get it? It's that same sort of thing where this allows for Godzilla to be a complete mystery. We don't know anything about him. We don't know, and you could do anything. There's no checklist of things that have to be included because it is Godzilla yet. You are writing the checklist. So when it comes time to do this, the audience is completely mystified, whatever. But by the time we hit like 2014's or Godzilla -1, you kind of already know, even going into, no matter how much like the mystery is still playing up of like, what is Godzilla going to look like this time around? You still know certain things have to be true.
Yeah. The staples they cannot deviate from, or it'll feel too weird, or it'll feel un-Godzilla at a certain point. Yeah. This gets to define things.
I'd say the closest they got to deviating from that checklist was Shin Godzilla. That was the weirdest one out of all of them, but still, there were many things that were still the same on there. Yeah.
Which isn't a problem, obviously. I get why they're doing that. It just makes this one kind of special because they're truly just, you know, forming it from scratch. And it's funny because, like, obviously some things here don't look as good, obviously, as they're going to much later. But, you know, he has all the staples you think about. He has the atomic breath, the fins lighting up. It's not a ton of that, but you do see it. It is there. That idea was there from the get-go. And obviously, yeah, it looks much better in modern movies because they've got, you know, better effects and all the rest of it, but it works. Having said that, though, Godzilla looks his best in this movie when it's a nice wide shot and he's in like a landscape, there's something for scale, and there's just kind of a haunting quality to him. That's like where he's really excelling here in so many ways. So yeah, no, it's great stuff. And I think we'll get to spoilers soon just so we don't have to worry about what we're saying, but like honestly, if you haven't seen Godzilla, it is a staple of cinema. It's, you know, it's one of those important touchstones, and arguably it's so funny that this, and because I want to say is Seven Samurai the same year as this, like two of the most important Japanese films.
I think so. Yeah, I remember when we were talking about Seven Samurai, we were like, this came out at the same time. Yeah, 1954.
Yeah. And of course, Takashi Shimura is in both movies. He's here as our main doctor, or paleontologist, the Alan Grant of Godzilla, if you will. He's here.
I'm trying to think what actor we could even equivalent that to, of just having two absolutely smash like cultural touchstones in the exact same year.
Yeah, and very different kinds. I mean, this one's obviously a lot more highbrow than the rest of the Godzillas, but, you know, Seven Samurai is like this highbrow movie, and this is also something that's in the Criterion Collection. It's not like this isn't like well respected, but arguably because it's a giant monster, you see it as a bit more mainstream, kind of friendly, right? So it's like these two very different types of touchstones and like milestones. Whereas, you know, like I mean, who do you compare it to? The only actor, I mean, not at the same time, but there's I can't remember his name, but there's an actor who's in Apocalypse Now, The Godfather 1 and 2, The Conversation, and Dog Day Afternoon, and that was his only 5 movies, but he's in those 5 movies, and it's like the best track record of any actor who's ever lived. Sadly,
That's fair.
mainly because he passed away young, so it's an unfortunate reason why it's that way. But
right,
it's a track record of just gold, basically.
When you start out with Apocalypse Now and Godfather 1, 2, I'm like, Marlon Brando? Is that,
No.
I feel like that's the obvious answer.
Brando's not in Godfather 2.
Oh, that's right. He's not. Never mind.
Yeah. His character is in flashbacks, but he's played by Robert De Niro.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
I've never actually gotten all the way through Godfather 2. I'm waiting for... It's on a vote upcoming, so I'm just holding off for that now.
Yeah, it isn't a vote, although people on stream have been strongly indicating that they're all going to vote for something else to upset me.
Well, guess I'll get to it eventually.
We'll get to eventually in Collector's Cup, but it may not be this upcoming vote in a couple of months that's on the horizon. But anyway, so yeah, finally getting to the Godzillas. So we'll get into spoilers for the first one here. Not that there's a ton to spoil, but just in case you want to avoid plot details and specifics, this is where we'll go into that stuff. So you have been warned. All right, so spoilers. So the movie opens with effectively various boats being destroyed. There's just like a bright flash of light, which also kind of feels like an atomic bomb in a lot of ways. And boats go down, people are concerned, we get introduced to a couple of characters that are relevant, and it's once survivors of a couple of these boats wash up on shore, where they're saying they've seen something, some kind of creature, a monster, and it's actually on, I think it's Odo Island, like one of the old guys is like, oh, it's a Godzilla is a legend kind of thing. And it's actually kind of funny watching this now, I've been like, oh, that's where, like, in the original movie the name comes from, is just like this old myth on this little Japanese island.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've got the behind the scenes look that Godzilla is from Gojira, and Gojira, I believe, is just a mixture of gorilla and whale in the Japanese language. I think that's what the combination.
It's something
is,
like that. It may not be the exact animals, but it's something like that.
Yeah, but I like how it is specifically indicated that, like, this island kind of has like a King Kong thing going on, where it's like, this is a beast of legend to them. This is something that they revere as like something that happens, and they've already got a name for it, and we just run with that name. We don't try to come up with our own special thing here.
But when you say it's a King Kong thing, it's not like we're on Skull Island. It's like it's still a normal island. It's just a little myth they have. Like they're a fishing island. They're a normal, civilization fishing island.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, like all this build-up's interesting, especially once there's like reports of a creature, and we introduced Dr. Yamane, who,
Yamane.
Sorry? Yamane. Oh, sorry. Am I pronouncing it poorly? Yamane.
Weirdly enough, you said it the exact same way in the previous review as well, because Tara corrected you on that.
Look, I'm reading subtitles. That's where my brain goes to. But yes, Yamane.
You're good.
He's introduced, and he starts talking about the Jurassic era, and he starts talking about, like, could this be from dinosaur times? But as much as, like, we don't tend to talk about, like, Godzilla being around in dinosaur time, I think as time went on, we definitely view Godzilla as more of a mythological kind of being that's even, like, predates dinosaurs. Obviously, it makes sense to compare to dinosaurs and say, is it something from that time period? But, the things that he does get into is like, oh no, he probably lived somewhere deep underwater, and he believes that testing of hydrogen bombs in water are what have caused like this disturbance. This basically brought Godzilla up to the surface, and like, now we've added meanings onto this. Different movies have said different things about this. Obviously, the modern American movies talk about how, he comes up to restore balance. So so in that case, it's like, humans are messing with powers that they shouldn't be messing with. So Godzilla comes up to teach us a lesson, kind of thing.
God, I love that. That's the way the American, like, because it works. It's a general catch-all that anybody could do it. But again, I can't help but view that through the lens of, like, the first Godzilla was absolutely a thing of Americans. This is about a thing that you did to us. And then Americans just take it, make it their own, and say, yeah, but we can all learn from this. This isn't just about how America sucks, right, guys?
Yeah, to be fair to it, I do want to say this. I don't think this movie feels like it's targeted at America. Obviously, yes, technically, America did the nuclear bombs, right? They're absolutely on the hook for that. But it feels like much more of a general kind of like ideology of just like but the threat of nuclear weapons in general, it doesn't feel like sort of pinpointed of blaming anyone in particular. It feels more like, no, this is like a warning sign in general. This is like what this does to people and why you shouldn't use them, kind of, as opposed to, we want to villainize America for being the bad guys here. And they could have done that, but I don't think the movie's like, focusing on that or try to emphasize that in any way.
It's absolutely just an anti-nuclear standpoint, which obviously by that point the Soviets were on board. Like the whole world was just moving into the atom age. There is one bit that I wanted to bring up, and it comes back to that initial scene as well, is that apparently at the beginning of 1954, it says a few months before the film was made, the U.S. did a hydrogen bomb test of Castle Bravo, and there was a Japanese fishing boat, not like in the blast, but within the fallout area. Oh. And it like contaminated all of their catch with radiation. One of the crew members died of radiation sickness, and it basically just spurred on a huge like anti-nuclear petition that had like 30 million signatures within a year.
I mean, rightly so. I mean, that really puts those early fishing boat scenes in, light. I don't know if they'd already written scenes like that in there. Maybe they changed a few things if they had already written some of the the movie, but it definitely feels really close to not be a complete coincidence, right?
And that's the sort of thing, like, you open with that, the audience is like, okay, we know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, in the time period, sure. Again, modern audiences might not get that direct correlation, but like that's certainly at the time that would have been something that people were thinking about. Yep. Yeah, no, it's like all this early stuff is super fascinating, just by how they talk about him, how they consider it, and they sort of talk about this as not a typhoon, it did this. Because, the first time he makes landmass, we don't see Godzilla, we just see the destruction of some houses and things like that. You do kind of, if you're looking closely, make out a bit of a leg going past during one of the shots, but it's not like super, we're not revealing Godzilla yet. He's still being kept in the well, not in the shadows, but out of frame. He's been kept out of frame. Yeah. So
I also really like that when they're talking to the boards or whatever people about this, the boards aren't your stereotypical like, oh, we can't believe that, it can possibly be, like, they're like, okay, no, like, if we're having to open up our mind to options here, we're willing to explore the option that it is what you're saying it is.
Yeah, in fact, immediately there's a debate. There's like, some guy stands up and says, oh, we should not tell the public about Godzilla. And, the woman's like, no, this is bullshit. The truth has to be out there. It's like, no, it'll cause a panic. And the guy comes off as, like, unlikable, and, like, I kind of don't agree with, like, his attitude. But the point about not wanting to cause a panic isn't, there's merit to that statement. Like, you don't want everyone screaming and running, because, like, where are they going to go? Godzilla might pop up anywhere. It's not like there's a safe haven if he's going to come on land.
Yeah, but at the same time, if he does come up on land, the idea is that, like, people aren't just going to gawk, and, like, they would be able to know what's happening and be able to leave quickly.
Yeah, maybe have some, drills done, evacuation plans, things like that.
If Godzilla shows up, hide under your desk.
Oh, yeah, that'll help. Actually, it's about as useless as doing that during a nuclear bomb going off, I suppose. So, yeah, it's a good parallel. So... yeah, I mean, they go to the island where Godzilla was apparently seen and caused some destruction, and we're checking footprints and all that, and Yamane finds like a ancient, extinct, prehistoric, like, tick or whatever it is that came off Godzilla's foot.
The trilobites. They were just like old horseshoe crab sort of stuff.
Yeah. And they're looking around, they're discussing things, blah blah blah, and then some guy starts.
The radiation's off the roof as well. Yes, everything's radioactive.
Yeah, although not enough that they're concerned about their own well-being.
That's one of my favorite bits in the movie, is he picks up the trilobite and he's like, this thing should be extinct. Like, it went extinct millions of years ago. And some other guy's like, hey, you shouldn't be touching that with bare hands. He's like, oh, yeah, right. And he sets it down. And I'm like, I think it's a bit late to worry about that now.
5-second rule.
Yeah. 1, 2, Chernobyl.
So some guy starts ringing the bell. He's like, Godzilla's on the other side of the hill. So our first big reveal of Godzilla is Godzilla popping his head out from behind this hill. And it's not the best looking Godzilla shot in the movie. It's a fun moment. It's iconic because of, like, their reactions and all this stuff. But all the money shots come later. All the money shots are when he's in the city and stuff later.
Oh yeah, they just give you like a few peeks here, and then after everyone's done like scrambling, running away, they're like, "Wait, where is it? Where to go?" And we just see the trail with like the tail going into the ocean, and then the footprints on either side, which again give you a sense of scale for this thing as well. It tells you, all right, you saw it over the hill, but you don't really know how big the hill is, but you do have a better reference point for this beach.
Yeah, and I think this is probably a good time to just sort of mention the characters a little bit, because obviously we cut to them and like so Yamani's daughter is one of the main characters. She's a nurse. Emiko is her name. She's in a relationship with Ogata, who works for, I think if not the Navy, then certainly the shipping kind of.
Yeah, I was picking up that he was in charge of like scrap stuff. So when the ships were attacked, he was called out because it's like, we've got a bunch of boat scrap out there we need you to come pick up.
Yeah, he's regardless, he's definitely, that's his line of work. I mean, his exact job title I couldn't tell you, but he's fully involved and he knows how to deep sea dive and all that. So that's definitely his field of expertise. And we have Serizawa, Dr. Serizawa, the eye patch. So he's very distinct. You always recognize him when you see him. He apparently is kind of engaged to Emiko, but it kind of sounds like because he works with the father and like he's known her since they were young, there's kind of this almost like just assumed thing that's happening. And the bit of the drama and the quote unquote love triangle is that Emiko obviously is with Ogata and wants to kind of break the news to Serizawa that, hey, I want to be with him and kind of go down that path. And we get kind of a big scene, which is when they're trying to discuss like how do we take care of Godzilla. We get a sequence where a journalist wants to go speak to Serizawa because they've heard rumors that he's working on something that could help fight Godzilla, and she takes the journalist to him and goes, I'm going to go as well and I'll try and tell him about you, Ogata. I'll try and like fill him in this news. And it ends up not happening, because after he shoos away the journalist, she wants to tell him, but he ends up taking her down to show his top secret research project. And it conceals it here. We don't get to see it. We just see her screaming horror at the thing he's shown her. And I thought, man, like, what nasty, nasty looking penis does he have? Because she is screaming to the high heavens.
Yeah.
I can make a silly joke, but on you go.
I when it comes down to the sequence here, I get what they're going for, and I think that it is probably for the time very jarring and very much whatever. But I do, my one little critique here is, at least from a modern perspective, doing that scream and not letting us see what it is. Either they should have never shown us what it is, like directly until the end, or had really pumped up like how gross it looked. Because when they finally do show us, I'm like, that's it? That's all it is? That's what you reacted so strongly for? All right.
I mean, like, back in like the 40s, like women would just faint in movies at the slightest thing that upset them. So maybe this is just a carryover from that. She's just overreacted a bit, but
all right, fair enough. It was a little bit like for me.
I don't know. Look, I think this is more just down to like what they could pull off with the effect rather than anything else.
Right.
To be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't expecting like, it's a fish tank that he uses it on. I wasn't expecting it to just be all of a sudden full of blood and guts of fish. Like, clearly not. But it also was just like, snap, now they're skeletons. And it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah. That comes later, of course, before we see that.
Right.
But so she didn't get a chance to actually tell him, that she's engaged or she wants to marry someone else. But it's that night, everyone's kind of sad because Yamani's very sad because all they keep doing is talking about how do we kill Godzilla? How can we kill this thing and stop him? And he's sad because he's like, as they point out, he's a zoologist. He wants to study creatures. He wants to study things. And even just in terms of like the radiation side of it is like, this thing survived a nuclear blast, or at least it seems that way. Shouldn't we like investigate him and figure out like what we can learn about how he's like withstood that?
That is the bit that I love most about his motivation, is that like it introduces that idea of him saying he's a zoologist, and from an audience perspective you're thinking, oh, he just doesn't want to kill off the last surviving member of this species or whatever. He just wants to, and you got to kind of try to like balance that with, letting all of these other people die, it kind of seems like, no, you need to kill off the giant monster.
To be fair though, like when he's like saying those things, like Godzilla's not in your city yet. He's took down a couple of boats. Like the scale of the destruction's much smaller thus far when he's making those debates.
Right. Fair enough. But you know, the threat is there. The idea that he is up and he's moving closer to Japan. What I like about it, though, is then he does give his like a fully logical reasoning that absolutely seems right, which is this thing has withstood nuclear bombs. We kind of have all the reason to try to study how it did that, especially with the world moving in the direction it is. This could benefit humankind massively. How, like, why are we just jumping straight to the, no pun intended, nuclear option here?
Yeah. No, it's fascinating because he's got valid points. There's like things to study here, and not just because he doesn't want to harm a creature, but because there's things to learn from it. If not from a historical perspective, then certainly the fact that it can seemingly deal with radiation, it can deal with these things. And he's got points, but obviously the tragedy of the movie is that once Godzilla does storm into cities, and it leaves behind what looks like a nuclear blast. You know, once you see the devastation of Tokyo later and the sad music starts playing, which is a great moment, it's really haunting. You know, we see like, you know, doctors and nurses and ambulances like just try to look after the people that have been injured. It feels like the aftermath of a war, of a nuclear bomb or something akin to that. And things change. And obviously he doesn't fight the idea that they have to kill Godzilla at that point because he's seen just how, like, what the price would be here. And even the first scene with the journalist, like the journalist who goes to see Serizawa, when we first get introduced to him before he goes to see our other main characters, he's sitting with like colleagues and they're basically just debating like what should happen here. He's like, oh yeah, Dr. Yamane, he wants to, you know, study this thing. He's like, yeah, but at what cost? Like, and he's like, yeah, it's a tough question. Like, you know, they don't hide the questions and that they're asking. They're very upfront about the debate that's been had here.
Yeah.
And it kind of feeds into this idea of like, well, we have nuclear technology, and that kind of, you know, I assume by this point in history as well, we're talking about nuclear power. So he's like, okay, the bombs are bad, but there's other things from nuclear, you know, ideas that can benefit people. You know, energy that's more efficient or whatever. But there's the fear of course, that comes along with that. You already mentioned Chernobyl. Yeah. So
I mean, once we get to the reveal of the oxygen destroyer, and we'll get to that later, but like once we get to that, it doubles down on that narrative. The idea of if you put it out there when it's only used as a weapon, then it's going to be used as a weapon. But if you can find the better uses for it, something that is beneficial to humanity in a different sense, then that's the goal. That's how you stop it from being used as just another weapon.
Yeah. So, yeah, like everything's very sad at the Yamane household when the alarm goes off. And this isn't the full attack. This is just like a sort of taste of the attack where Godzilla kind of comes in and like a train runs into his foot. But him coming out of the water is great. There's also a quick sequence where there's like a party boat off the coast of Tokyo and they're all just singing and dancing and they're having a drink and like Godzilla pops his head up and they're like, ah, Godzilla. So like all that stuff is good fun. But I love how they chose a party boat to show that he's near land now, because it's like, oh, this isn't just like fishermen or like a navy ship or something like that. This is like people who are happy. This is people who are like completely oblivious that there's danger nearby.
They're all scrambling out the door. So I don't know if it seems like it's offshore, but at the very least, it's close enough that like lifeboats are going to be able. They think that's a valid option here.
Yeah. Maybe they even swim to shore from here. I don't know. It may take a while. But yeah, like, so I mean, that stuff looks great. Obviously, with Godzilla here, like with the train getting into him, and like he's walking past some power lines. You've got some smoke and fog and all the rest of it, making it look very ominous. But that's not the big attack. The big attack is the full blown, like he comes into Tokyo, he picks up the train, he destroys buildings with his tail, he knocks over a bridge, he's walking through water. In fact, the shot of him walking through the water with the fire in the background is the shot of the movie. Like that is the movie. Yeah. That's the shot you show to say, hey, this is cinema. Like this moment.
I think I said the exact same thing about Shin Godzilla, but like the shot of Godzilla against the fire, I'm like, there's a reason he's got God in his name. Like he seems like he's at that level there. I do also want to point out during this attack, ostensibly, he may not have caused as much damage, but humanity's plan was the moment he gets to shore, he's going to crash through some power lines.
Yes.
And we're just going to zap him with, like, I think it was 40,000 volts. Like, we're just going to do whatever we can to try to kill him here. And then they start shooting him as well. So probably angered him a little bit.
Pisses him off. He's basically just like, thanks for the caffeine, guys. I'm just going to go rampaging now as much as I like. And, you know, there's obviously a lot of iconic moments here. The big ones to point out is him destroying the movie theater that the movie would then premiere in. Something they repeated with the 98 Godzilla with Madison Square Garden. They put the premiere in there in New York, so because it's like, hey, this is where a lot of the third act takes place. Isn't that fun?
And then they had to continue watching the 98 Godzilla. So
yeah, that's a real tragedy. They were probably begging for a tail to like crush them at that point. And then, of course, there's the whole idea of the reporters watching, and in this, because this happens in Godzilla Minus One as well, but they're just on a roof in Godzilla Minus One. Here, they're on like a watchtower in the middle of the city, and basically Godzilla notices the camera flashes, and he's like, I don't like these flashes, I'm going to go over there and melt the middle of this tower and knock it over. And they scream, they fall to their death, and one of my favorite bits of this whole destruction sequence, and this is kind of one of the moments that shows you this has been taken more seriously than a lot of the later films, where it's about having fun, it's about having big monster fights and all that, is it cuts to a woman who's holding her 2 children, and she's crying and saying, we're going to join your father. Presumably their father dying in World War II, you would assume. If not then, in something like that. We're going to join your father. And I'm like, Jesus, like this movie's not trying to be fun, it's trying to make you feel the tragedy of the destruction and what's happening.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, this is also where the atomic breath comes in, and just the imagery of it, seeing these houses just all of a sudden on fire and blown away. It's absolutely trying to cash in on all of the visuals that came out of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It is absolutely rekindling those memories and just not making it obvious to the audience, who obviously were familiar at that point, this is the nuclear aspect. This is him coming back again and again, and it's just going to keep on causing the same problems that we dealt with before.
Yeah, and the only thing I would take you up on there is the use of the phrase cash in, because I don't think it's like a...
Oh no, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. It's like they're intentionally using that because this is what the movie's trying to talk about. It's not like, oh, shock value, isn't this remind us of that horrible thing that happened? It's no, this movie's about us processing that horrible thing that happened. It's about us talking about it. You know, and I don't know, like, is it something that like a lot of Japanese people like to try and not talk about because it was just too traumatic, and this was like a cathartic thing to have like a movie just do it? Or, you know, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for the people at the time in this country, but whatever the case, it feels like this was about kind of like, no, let's get this out in the open and talk about it in a way that we can all kind of enjoy as a piece of entertainment, but also kind of think about all the things that have been going through our heads since it happened. Because, you know, 1954, it's only 9 years later. Like, you know, like everyone who was alive in the country, I mean, outside of where the bombs landed, obviously, you know, unless most of those people are still alive and they still remember what happened. Like, this is, and to put it in comparison, you know, the 9/11 comparison, this is like a movie that came out in what, 2010?
Yeah,
you know, like
pretty much. You know, the exact time period.
It's the same generation. It's the same people by and large. Anyone who's like so young that they weren't around for the tragedy that's been referenced was just too young to get it, because, you know, they'd only be like at most 9 years old. So
yeah, I did do a quick search here. Apparently the first films that were like about the atomic bombings, I can't say if there were any that were like, you know, metaphorical whatevers, but the first ones about it was Children of Hiroshima in 1952.
Is that a Japanese movie?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I specifically said first Japanese movies.
Sure.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I was looking for that.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested to see that, actually, because that obviously sounds like it's more head on. Like, that's like disgusting. I assume that's going to be a very sort of sad, serious watch. I would assume.
Yeah, it says docudrama.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
that makes sense. But yeah, no, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if America somehow made a movie about it first, but it does feel right that Japan got to make the first movies exploring, you know, the fallout of that. And I use that word, pun intended.
Yeah, at the very least, even if it's not about the bombs, the viewpoint of the trauma, that's the part that needs to be analyzed, and only Japan is able to talk about that. It's the only people who can really view it through that lens.
Yeah, it's the same reason why, on the flip side, like, I agree with Nolan's decision to not show, like, Japan's viewpoint in Oppenheimer, because it wasn't about their viewpoint, it was about the people who built the bomb. It was about their hearing about what happened, but they didn't get to see any of it. So it felt right for that movie not to show that side of it, because he's not making a movie about their side. You know, like, I'm not saying this should happen, but you could almost do, like, you know, some Japanese filmmaker could make the almost the sibling film where it's like, here's Japan's side of the same kind of time period and story, and you know, they could pair together, not as a double feature because it'd be a very depressing night, I assume, but you know what I mean. Like, God. So, you know, it's really interesting to kind of think about, like, the more serious things this movie's touching on. But all these visuals, all this, the destruction sequence is obviously iconic in a lot of fun ways as well, but it's haunting, it's effective. And yeah, those like sequences afterwards where the sort of the emotional theme is playing, as like we're seeing the hospitals be overwhelmed and the nurses trying to help everyone. And this is where, of course, Emiko goes to Agata and says, I need to break my promise to someone and tell you about what Serizawa's made, because it might actually be able to do something about this. And, you know, they go to him, and Serizawa's like, no, if people know this thing exists, it'll be used as a weapon. And he straight up says, there's the A bomb, there's the H bomb, I'm not adding to it, I'm not giving them another one.
That's one thing that I remember. So the concept of the oxygen destroyer, for anyone who doesn't know, that they say in the movie is that he was just kind of messing around. He was looking at different states of oxygen or whatever else at that point, and he discovered a way, as he puts it, to liquefy the oxygen around, and therefore causes the person to suffocate, and then it like liquefies all of their muscles and skin and stuff as well. So it's kind of just made up science. It doesn't try to make it sound realistic or anything like that. But no, that's the bit that I actually really like about it, though, is because if you view it through the lens of, this is essentially the rediscovery of splitting the atom. This is essentially the new thing that they're equating to making a new nuclear bomb. Like, prior to doing it, everyone said splitting the atom was impossible. Like, there was no way to properly do it until they did it. I mean, that's in Oppenheimer, is him saying, like, they split the atom. No, they didn't. Here's the mathematical proof they can't. And then they did it anyway. So I like the fact that it is kind of just this made up sounding thing, because that has to be how it sounded when the atom bombs were first being talked about as well, of just like, well, here's this thing that we all assumed is completely nonsense and magical, but we're doing it anyway.
Yeah, but I love these ethical reasons here where he's like, no, I can't let this out, you know, and they say, well, you know, don't let anyone else know about it, like, you know, just like, you know, destroy all your research, we'll just use it for this one thing that it's needed for. And he's like, yeah, but some people might convince me, they might coerce me to one day, and he literally says the line, as long as I'm alive, there's a possibility someone will make me tell them how it works and how to do it, which obviously leads to what he does at the end, where he chooses to stay down with the device and go with Godzilla. It's a whole, like, tragic thing.
Again, the equivalencies of the atomic stuff, if we have to make these bombs to stop the Nazis. That's the only way that this war is going to end, is if we do that. And then, A, we didn't even use them on the Nazis, and B, they keep using them after the fact, despite the fact that they said, well, you know, we probably won't. As long as people know that we had them, we don't have to use them again.
Yeah. We don't actually need them to beat the Nazis, and we don't even need them to beat Japan. By all accounts, they were going to surrender anyway, but it was, you know, about sending a message or whatever. It was all fun and games until the other side had nuclear bombs, and then all of a sudden everyone got really scared. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, all of a sudden we had a few crises. All of a sudden we had a Cold War that lasted a significant period of time. But in fairness, we got like 4 good Godzilla reboots out of that. So kudos.
Yeah, I mean, like, his argument's great, and obviously, like, it's when there's like a news report about like the ongoing like disaster relief, and there's like a schoolgirl choir singing for Tokyo and the falling people who have died, and this is like what gets him teary-eyed, and he's like, okay, I'm going to burn all my research, and I'll use the Auction Destroyer this one time. And it's this big emotional thing. And it leads us right into the ending where they go out on a boat. I love old school deep sea diving suits with the big helmets. I love how they look. So I'm delighted that's what's in this movie.
One thing I do want to point out is when he's describing why it has to stay secret and all that, he does specifically say, like, if I am ever forced to use this, then I will destroy my research and also kill myself, like, so that it cannot be used. And I think because with Emiko starts crying, like, she just starts sobbing crazy hard at that point. I think she knows what's going to happen, despite the fact that the movie is still kind of like, is he? Will he not? What's going to happen here?
Yeah. And he's going to go down on his own. I'm going to go down in deep sea diving suit on my own. And Agata's like, you're not trained though. I'm not letting you go down there on your own. I'm a trained diver. I'm going to go down there with you. There's a lot of more haunting shots here. You get a few shots of Godzilla just standing there on the seabed, surrounded by water, which is pretty cool. Like, again, it has this kind of ethereal quality to it. And ultimately, basically Serizawa just doesn't go back up with him. And when they try and contact him via radio, he just says, hey, I hope you two are happy together. Like, that's the thing. They set up this whole drama of the love triangle and having to tell them they're going to be a thing. And it never becomes this big thing we focus on. He just gives that one line before he goes, like, hey, there's no ill will here. Like, be happy. Like, I'm going.
I feel like we build this as a love triangle, but in honesty, it's two people in love and one person who is much busier with other things to care.
He's got a lot more going on, and he goes down with Godzilla, and we see Godzilla wince in pain. He goes up to the surface and screams a little bit, and he comes back down, and then we literally see him turn into a skeleton in the water. So Godzilla's gone, and everyone's obviously all very sad, except people who are happy that Godzilla's dead. And the movie ends with Yamane sitting down and making a speech about how we don't know if that's the only one of his kind, and if people keep testing hydrogen bombs, was to say there won't be another Godzilla at some point. And I genuinely don't think this was a sequel bait thing. I think because in the sequels, I don't think it's even like, technically, we saw him die, but I still feel like everyone just considers it the same Godzilla. No one really talks about how this is a second Godzilla. Like, no one says that. No one's ever refers to him as,
it's the idea that he is able to overcome and adapt and like always be able to survive anything. So sure, he was a skeleton, but when has that ever stopped him before?
But so he makes this speech about like continuing to do these horrific things will lead to more tragedies, basically, is ultimately the final point the movie ends on.
No, and that's the thing, is it's not even, the speech isn't even about the idea of like nuclear bombs specifically. It's not saying like, if we keep on developing H-bombs or if we keep on atomic
that's
warfare.
The example he's using, but like,
right. No, the exact words he uses is, if we continue nuclear testing, we will continue to do all this. And to go back to that example I gave at the beginning of that shipping boat, that fishing boat that got caught up in the thing, that was just them testing the bomb. Like, that was, sure, the bomb was a thing, but they're the ones who know about all the fallout. They know about the radiation sickness. They know about all that stuff. And that's kind of the big thing here, is they're not even so much worried about more bombs being dropped. They're worried about the after effects of just dealing with the nuclear stuff at all. Like, it's enough to poison the planet rather than destroy it.
Yeah, there is something really sad about the fact that the country who's the only country on Earth who's ever been hit with nuclear bombs is also the country that had this fishing boat story where they just happened to get caught in the crossfire of a test by accident because of negligence, because of, whatever the reason was. Either whoever was running the test didn't care, or they didn't calculate, or they just didn't know that there was boats in that area, or whatever it was. Didn't do the research, their due diligence.
Are you telling me that America might take some shortcuts whenever it's testing its bombs? I don't believe you.
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just, like, there's some remodeling at the White House to be done. Like, you're too busy to be retesting and just doing the proper research.
I was gonna say, does anybody actually have a camera set up at Bikini Atoll? Because I have a feeling like we might want to get that set up sometime soon.
No, I mean, I think what sticks out to me this movie is that obviously it's very lean. It's not super long. It's like 95 minutes. It's well paced. it spends its time building the mystery of the creature, building up these key debates around it, and like and it's not like anyone ever says Godzilla's good. It's just the idea that we can study him for beneficial reasons. There's things to learn from him and why he exists, and maybe even where he came from, if that's even something that's important ultimately. But also all this tragedy, and it's kind of like going into this idea of like testing nuclear like technology, whether that be weapons or otherwise, and that there could be benefits, but it's also really dangerous. Are we messing with forces that we shouldn't be, kind of thing? But ultimately, for me, like all I always come away from is, one, how haunting it is at points, and just the sense of like the tragedy in the country, particularly after the big Tokyo like rampage. There's like the scenes following that is where I think the movie feels the most profound, and it's where I'm really getting all the feels from it, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It does a great job of building up the tension, because you keep on saying like, we're gonna have to evacuate, he might have this much of a range, all this stuff coming on, but it isn't until he actually hits land and they show the devastation that it becomes real, not just to the audience, but it feels like the characters as well. It feels like that's the moment where it's like, we've gone through this again, and we have to stop it. Like, it can't just continue on and keep going.
Again, it's one thing to talk about what a nuclear bomb can do. It's another thing to actually use it and then see what it's done, you know?
Right. Yeah.
The theory versus the experience.
Exactly. Going through Oppenheimer, I mean, that's kind of a huge aspect of the movie, is the idea of it. Like, you have all these numbers, and the numbers are meaningless until you put it into official, like, here's the body count. And even then, if the number gets big enough, it almost loses meaning at that point as well.
Yeah. So to sum up, maybe don't. That's the message of the movies. Maybe don't.
the suggestion for the nuclear arsenal: maybe don't.
Yeah, maybe don't. All right, David, we are at that point where we have to rate the original Godzilla.
All right. I assume I go first. You didn't directly say it.
You normally go first, so yes, you go first. Yes.
I do really like it. I think this one is definitely an all-timer. It has earned its position. I don't think that there's any question about that. The question is, in that upper echelon of amazing movies, I'm maneuvering by essentially half points here. Where do I think it really deserves to go? I'm going to say that this one... This one is a 9.5 for me.
Okay.
I was bouncing. For me personally, I don't have a super deep connection to Godzilla. I didn't grow up with it. I only ever watched I think it was the 2014 Godzilla. I didn't even see the 98 Godzilla. Was my first real outing with it. And so I don't have enough of a connection to give it the 10. So for me, it was between a 9.5 and a 9, and I do think it is worth that 9.5 for me.
Yeah. This is one that, you know, I'm sure when I first saw it, I gave it whatever rating I would have given it. Because I probably was old enough that I was given ratings by the time I saw it. I was probably at least hitting adulthood, if not maybe even in my early 20s when I first did. But over the time, you know, you watch it and it is one of those classics. It's one of those special movies. It's really important. And I did check what I gave it back when I talked to Tara about it, because I was curious, like, what did I land on at the time? And when we did that, I gave it a 10. And I'm sitting here thinking, do I still feel like I should give it a 10? Is there any reason why I shouldn't give it a 10? And the simple answer is no, there is no reason why I should not give this a 10. So I am giving Godzilla a 10. It's just one of those movies. It's important, it's special, it holds up. For any faults you can levy at it, they don't matter ultimately in the importance of what it is. So yeah. There you go. That is Godzilla. So like I say, in a couple of months' time, we'll be back with Godzilla Raids again. But next time on the Atomic Cinema Experiment is the winner of our most recent Patreon vote, which we don't have a winner for that yet, do we?
No,
we don't.
That's a little peek behind the camera. We're way ahead of schedule, and we do not have the vote winners yet.
We're not really that ahead of schedule. We're just kind of ahead of schedule because we've got like 3 theater releases in a row coming up at the time of recording, and we can't record them. So we're recording things that are after those. So For a couple of episodes, we're recording stuff that are like a month and a half ahead of time, but it's only because we can't record like 3 things that come before it. But anyway, that's so that's what's next. There's a vote winner next time, so I can't tell you what it is. Sorry, but here we are.
Hold on. I've got the vote thing right here. We can at least tell them what the options
what are the options?
Whatever we're coming up on. So the options would be Her, Gravity, or Under the Skin.
It'll be one of those, and the vote will be long done by the time you get this episode. But
yes,
the patrons are voting as we record.
But there
between
are
those
other
3
votes all the time. Go to the Patreon.
Yes.
Take it away, Pete.
Yes. Patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, or YouTube membership, of course, as well as an option. But you can get extra content, like our bonus rating segments that we do for Collector's Cut and Ace. And you can also get our monthly show, Extra Reels, where we review some of the worst movies of all time. Plus, I don't really mention this that much, but you do get a day early access to all of the Ace and Collector's Cut and Screams episodes, if that's something that interests you. Mainly you get to support the shows and help keep them all coming. And get a couple of extra goodies. So thanks to everyone who already does support us. And that's about that for the plugging, other than the usual liking, subscribing, and dinging bells, and all the other things people tell you to do. But before we wrap up, of course, David does have his homework movie. He goes back and reviews something, or watches something that me and Tara did in the show before his time, and gives some quick thoughts and a rating at the end. So, David, what was this week's homework movie?
Well, before anything else, I do want to make clear to the audience, because the Godzilla movies are going to be bi-monthly here, I am making the decision now, all future Godzilla movies I'm not doing homeworks with. I don't want to bother with it. I just want to be able to focus on the movie.
This is shocking news. I can't contain myself.
I told you this like 3 weeks ago, but fair enough.
I do not remember that in the slightest.
That's fair. No, I just... not worth it to try to find stuff that fits in or whatever else. So I'm not for anything. But for this specific one, I did, because it only made sense that you guys originally did Godzilla as a double feature with King Kong, 1930, whatever. I also did, there you go. I also did King Kong, 1933. So the original one, the one that used all that claymation, as you were talking about before, got all that stuff. I don't even know, was that in the main review? Was that in the ratings rundown? Beats me.
I think I was in the ratings rundown, but yes, I mentioned the stop motion clay sort of effects they use.
Yes. But no, I had not seen this one before. I had seen the Peter Jackson one, so I was familiar with the general plot. I knew, we'd be running into dinosaurs and stuff like that.
Yes, that one's twice as long, maybe even 3 times as long, to be honest.
It is. I was amazed that they didn't have an ice skating scene in the 1930s one, but whatever. No, I genuinely did enjoy it. I was surprised by how much I did. I kind of expected it to be very lax on the characterization and story beats, because it was such like a spectacle movie, such a big thing of like, look at the big monsters and all that sort of stuff. I expected it to be a vehicle for that rather than having any sort of coherent real plot. But honest to God, the first like 40 minutes of the movie was all dedicated to, let's learn about these characters. Let's get them to the island. Let's see how each of them function amidst each other. It has numerous outdated and problematic elements, not the least of which is like half the crew members and the way they behave towards women. But it's ignoring that and just allotting it to, it's of the time. I did genuinely appreciate the way that they characterized these people. It made them feel real, even up until the end. It gave them like, you understand where they're each coming from here. And then Kong was also just an interesting character in his own right. My only real critique is that all the fights is kind of just blending together in my mind of Kong just punches a claymation dinosaur for a while. Like, it doesn't have anything that unique going on with it. That makes it anything super interesting. The only one that got anything out of me was actually the humans shooting a stegosaurus, which felt extremely rude considering that that's an herbivore and they would have been fine, but whatever. But no, I think the movie, obviously it was a big thing for its time. It kind of did a lot of trailblazing for not just even monster movies, but like just that sort of
genre
sci-fi
genre cinema in general.
Yeah, so collectively, I think I'm going to give that one an 8. I think that for what it is, it's very well done. It's not really something I see myself revisiting, except for the purposes of, hey, check out this really, really early King Kong version. But it's a very well-made one for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of came down on the side of like, I respect it for its role in cinema history a bit more than I actually like watching it, just because
Right.
I don't think it's, because we were comparing that and Godzilla back in that double feature, and like I was way more in the Godzilla camp. I was like, this is a way better movie.
Yeah.
So,
No doubt.
yeah.
I mean, I will say Kong goes deeper into the ideas of like colonialism. Like it does have themes of the ideas of that sort of stuff, but it's nowhere near as fleshed out or as interesting as nuclear trauma.
Yes. So there you go. That is the homework movie, and brings an end to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next week for whatever wins that vote. But thank you once again. We'll see you guys soon. Keep watching science fiction and computer ad salsa.